Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the absolutely epic, sometimes heartbreaking, and ultimately triumphant journey of Lionel Messi. It's a story that goes way beyond sports, really. We're talking unfathomable talent, crushing national expectations, and a seemingly cursed pursuit of the one prize that just kept slipping away. The craziest part? By 24, this guy had basically conquered club football. He was at the absolute summit. Yet he was staring down a decade of pure agony on the international stage. So let's break down exactly how he finally conquered the world.
Chapter 1. The Shadow of Maradona. To really wrap our heads around Messi's journey, we've got to talk about the massive and frankly suffocating ghost hanging over his entire career. Yep, Diego Maradona. Ever since Maradona won the 1986 World Cup, basically elevating himself to a literal footballing god in Argentina, the whole country had been desperately waiting for his second coming. So, in walks Messi with this mesmerizing, undeniable genius, and boom, he's immediately shoved right into that colossal shadow. And it constantly forced this core question: can true, undisputed greatness exist without a World Cup? For a really long time, the consensus was just no. The critics were loud. They argued that to sit at the exact same table as immortals like Pelé and Maradona, being the best player in the world just wasn't enough. You had to win it all for your country. The cognitive dissonance for football fans back then was just massive. Think about it. On a Tuesday night in Europe, you'd watch Messi playing for Barcelona, and he was flawless, right? Lifting trophies, shattering records, literally redefining what a human could do on a pitch. But then, on a Saturday night playing for Argentina, the magic just seemed to vanish. 0 senior international trophies. Because things were so perfect in Spain and so messy back home, he faced some seriously brutal accusations. People in his own country genuinely started questioning his patriotism. They'd whisper, or shout, honestly, that he just didn't care about Argentina. All because the ultimate results weren't showing up.
Which brings us to Chapter 2, Heartbreak and Heavy Criticism.
What happened next was a stretch of near misses so brutal, it would have completely shattered the psychology of almost anyone. You know, when you're the absolute best on the planet, a silver medal doesn't feel like a win. It feels like a gaping failure. First, there was the agonizing 2014 World Cup final against Germany, where a late extra-time goal shattered his dream right in front of him. Then, back-to-back Copa America final losses on penalties in 2015 and 2016. That 2016 final? Absolute breaking point. Messi stepped up, launched a crucial penalty high into the night sky, and that image of him, completely inconsolable, weeping on the bench, man, it's burned into the memory of every football fan. He was so devastated, he actually announced his immediate retirement from international football.
During this dark period, the media didn't hold back. They were absolutely ruthless. Pundits screaming into microphones, literally calling him a fraud on the international stage. The running narrative was that he lacked the personality, the sheer fire to be a real leader. They argued he couldn't just drag a disjointed team to a trophy the way other all-time greats supposedly could. The harsh, incredibly unfair narrative was that without his legendary Barcelona teammates like Xavi and Iniesta feeding him the ball, Lionel Messi was somehow just average. Crazy, right?
The emotional toll of all this was just immense. Years later, looking back on that brief retirement, Messi admitted he was completely demoralized. And it makes sense. He wasn't just fighting 11 guys on the pitch. He was up against a chaotic coaching setup, a totally disorganized federation, and a media that treated him like a punching bag. Every single time they lost, he said it felt like getting hit over the head with a baseball bat. When he walked away in 2016, he genuinely believed he was done forever. So, why exactly did the best player on earth look so ineffective in those big international games? Well, the answer is isolation, and the stats really paint the picture here. At Barcelona, he was the absolute heartbeat of the system, getting around 83 touches a game. He dictated everything. But in disastrous games for Argentina, like that brutal group stage loss to Croatia, he was down to just 49 touches. He was practically starved of the ball. His teammates were so terrified of making a mistake that they just wouldn't take risks to find him, leaving the greatest weapon in football history completely stranded out on the wing.
But, as we know, that wasn't the end. Chapter 3, Breaking the International Curse.
Heroes rarely stay down for good. Messi's eventual return sparked this massive tactical and cultural shift, and honestly, it was driven by sheer willpower. When Argentina was on the absolute edge of missing the 2018 World Cup, which caused pure panic across the nation, he saved them single-handedly with a legendary hat trick in the suffocating altitude of Ecuador. Behind the scenes, he transformed too. He became this intensely vocal, demanding leader. Before the 2021 Copa America final, he gave a locker room speech that famously moved his teammates to tears. When Messi spoke, Everybody shut up and listened, and it all paid off when they finally conquered their bitter rivals Brazil, right in the Maracanã. He finished as top scorer and top assist provider. The curse was finally broken.
That 2021 Copa America victory completely changed the vibe around the Argentine camp. That crushing, suffocating weight of a nation's expectations, it just vanished. Poof, gone. It was replaced by this genuinely stress-free environment. For the very first time in an Argentina shirt, we were seeing a Lionel Messi who was actually smiling, joking around with guys like Rodrigo de Paul, and just truly enjoying his football.
All of which perfectly sets up Chapter 4, the final World Cup quest.
This newfound freedom set the ultimate stage for Qatar 2022. It was officially his final World Cup. The tension, the anticipation, it was at an absolute fever pitch. Everybody knew this is it, the last dance. But then the tournament starts with an earth-shattering shock. A devastating 2-1 defeat to Saudi Arabia. It rocked the squad to their core. It honestly felt like the nightmarish ghosts of 2016 were back. Immediately, the doubters were roaring again. Rival fans are in the streets shouting, "Where's Messi? He's finished." And just like that, the dream felt incredibly fragile.
But faced with a horrifying early exit, Messi simply refused to lose. He stepped up and delivered these mesmerizing, frankly godlike performances, carrying the team through a grueling gauntlet. First, pure desperation against Mexico. He breaks the deadlock with a pinpoint strike to keep them alive. Then he navigates a crazy tense game against Australia, which happened to be his 1,000th career match. After that, they survive an unbelievably bloody, heated battle against the Netherlands that goes all the way to penalties. And finally, he just completely dismantles an elite Croatian midfield in the semis. Actually, speaking of that Netherlands game, he produced a moment that literally seemed to break the laws of physics. Surrounded by these giant Dutch defenders, with absolutely no passing lane in sight, he pulls off this blind, reverse, no-look pass that just slides perfectly through a non-existent gap for a goal. It was the kind of supernatural vision that leaves entire stadiums gasping. At 35 years old, when most guys are basically retired, he was proving he was playing a completely different sport than the rest of us mortals.
By this point, his impact on the team's psychology was just immeasurable. His goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, even said Messi was 99.9% of the team's driving force. But unlike those dark early days where the pressure paralyzed everyone, his unshakable brilliance was now creating this contagious, undeniable confidence. His teammates didn't feel the weight of the world anymore. They genuinely believed that as long as Lionel Messi was on the pitch with them, they were invincible.
And that brings us to the grand finale, Chapter 5, Becoming the Ultimate Champion.
The 2022 World Cup final against France. This wasn't just a game, it was an epic clash of titans that pretty much everyone considers the greatest match ever played. Talk about a roller coaster. Argentina completely dominates early on. Messi and Di Maria put them up 2-0. One hand on the trophy, right? But then, 80th minute, the shockwave hits. Kylian Mbappe explodes, scoring twice in a matter of seconds to tie it up. The stadium is in utter disbelief. In extra time, an exhausted Messi scores again. It feels like pure destiny. But nope, Mbappe wins a penalty and ties it again. Then, in the 123rd minute, Emi Martinez makes a miraculous heart-stopping save to keep the dream alive. It goes to penalties. Gonzalo Montiel makes that incredibly lonely walk, carrying 36 years of Argentine waiting on his shoulders. He strikes it, hits the net, and Argentina conquers the world. Looking at his complete collection of trophies, it's just the final puzzle piece locking into place. We are looking at absolute sporting immortality here. 12 league titles, 4 Champions Leagues, 7 Ballon d'Ors at the time, the Copa America, and finally the World Cup. It's the awe-inspiring culmination of a lifetime of relentless work. He conquered every single major hurdle, surviving years of brutal, heartbreaking pain to capture the one trophy that had evaded him his entire life. So after shaking hands with paradise and essentially ascending to a galaxy of his own creation, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. For years, the lack of a World Cup was the ultimate weapon critics used to beat down his legacy. But looking at the entirety of this triumphant, epic journey, from a burdened prodigy to the ultimate international champion, surely now we all have to admit, Lionel Messi is the greatest of all time, right? Thanks for joining us on this explainer. Keep questioning,